Ignore the 3D? I don't think so. The only reason why somebody would think they have to ignore the 3D is if they are not knowing why it is here in the first place. What is it here to show us? You see, our 3D, our physical reality in this very moment is a direct projection of whatever we have been projecting until now. If we don't want to receive the feedback so we can grow through whatever resistance we're holding on to, then how are we going to get to our wish fulfilled? So by ignoring the 3D, we're basically saying that it's not important, or if it's irrelevant, or that it's too important and we would want it to just go away. And why would we want to ignore something if the very thing we're supposedly trying to ignore is the very thing that is trying to help us grow and actually get to our fulfilled version of self, experiencing our fulfilled life? Ignoring would only get us this far. If we're really wanting to embody our fulfilled version and have meaningful and real relationships, we would not be able to ignore our 3D. Because basically what we're saying is that what we are becoming is a version of self that will ignore whatever is we define as negative, painful, or growth-oriented. And therefore we would need to do that to others, and others would need to do that to us. Basically, by ignoring the 3D, we're actually saying that we are only focusing on anything and exclusively on anything positive. And that does not feel very safe. I personally would not feel very safe with a person who only wanted to meet me at my best version of self and who only exclusively wanted my positive and didn't want to get to know me where I'm insecure, where I'm in my trauma, where I'm in my fear, right? I would think that that would be a fair weather friend. So if we're wanting to meet us only in our positive, what I believe is that we are becoming our own fair weather friend, and that doesn't build trust, and it doesn't build the commitment that a fulfilled version of ourselves is experiencing. Because to be fulfilled means that we meet ourselves both in whatever we judge and label as positive and whatever we label as negative. We're able to be with ourselves and not dismiss, ignore, suppress, project, and I don't know what other defense mechanisms we can do so that we not meet ourselves in our negative thoughts, emotions, feelings, and states. So please share with me if what I'm saying resonates with you. Do let me know what you think about ignoring the 3D and not ignoring the 3D. And I believe that, we can ignore the 3D by not invalidating it, by not wanting to not be with ourselves there, but basically by understanding that it's here just to remind us of how much we're wanting to grow or how much we have grown. So not engaging in it, but I think that's the natural outcome of having first validated the 3D fully and allowed to see where we are resisting to grow through and from, instead of just bypassing our resistance and wanting to ignore it altogether. Because at the end of the day, the only reason why we would want to ignore the 3D, we're not really ignoring the 3D, we're ignoring that part of ourselves that is actually resisting the current reality. And if we ignore that part of ourselves instead of meet ourselves there and empathically love ourselves there, then how empathic is this really at the end of the day, I wonder. So do let me know if you ignore the 3D, or if that's your last resort because anything else you've tried didn't work until now. And what I have done that works with me, because I have ignored the 3D while I was a person that wanted to look at the world and life, through pink colored glasses, and everybody thought I was, the positive force of energy. Actually, I was a very good chameleon and people pleaser. I didn't have an identity. I was full of wounds. I had really convinced everybody that I was positive and everything, but I couldn't deal with negative. So I was really dysregulated. My nervous system was dysregulated. I had stress. I was in stress the whole time. So back then, when I was in my, I had unhealed wounds and traumas, like many traumas. Back then, I did ignore the 3D, and that was because I didn't want to feel and process and grow through pain. Once I started feeling through anything and everything that, would come up through my subconscious into my reality, and validating myself and my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings there, that's when I started to heal and become a safe space for myself and others, and I was able to receive the safety from others to myself, towards myself. So let me know in the comments below and tell me what your take is on this. Do we ignore the 3D or do we not? And by not ignoring, when we decide to not ignore it but to meet ourselves everywhere, that is a fierce commitment of love to ourselves. And I honor that and I respect that. And of course, I don't, by not wanting to not ignore, actually, to not ignoring the 3D does not mean we get stuck in rumination. But if we're not supposed to get stuck and we're supposed to ignore as last resort, I think that's kind of a desperate way to deal with things, not a very empathic, loving, healing-oriented or spiritual way to deal with things. It's not a mature way, I would think. Maybe I'm judgmental, but it's okay. I mean, I am also judgmental. But let me know what you think. I mean, maybe it works. Sometimes ignoring the 3D may work for some small things, but when we're talking about deep trauma, wounds, money trauma and relationship trauma with a specific person, ignoring the 3D could only work if you actually have gone through the processing of the 3D and the acceptance of the 3D, acceptance of the resistance towards whatever's happening first. And then you get to a space that you're not attached to the 3D, yes, and from there you can just remember that it's not really, what's happening is not against you, but it's actually created for you, through you. But that's not really ignoring, that's having a different level of consciousness and awareness that this is actually serving me, it's not against me just because I label it as negative. So ignoring the 3D, I don't think so.